When I was in seminary, there was this one day that my housemates and I got into a lively debate about the merits of hip-hop music. And as one of my roommates got more and more agitated, she shouted, "Rap isn't music, there's no singing in rap." Without missing a beat, one of my housemates replied, "There's no singing in Rachmaninoff either." And that ended the debate. We agreed, rap is music. And I tell you this up front because I imagine a number of you listening today do like hip-hop and do listen to rap. And I bet a number of you don't and question the musicality of it or appreciate listening to it. And no matter what camp you're in today, whether you like hip-hop or you don't, keep on listening. This sermon is still for you. But I have to say that I do like hip-hop, and I'm going to talk about one artist that I'm especially drawn to, or at least interested by, Kanye West. I think his album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, is the best album of the past decade, maybe even in the 21st century. And in it, it's very clear Kanye is a musical genius. And I'm also fascinated by Kanye, not just the musician, but also Kanye, the person. Some of his antics disturb me, but I've gained a lot of sympathy for Kanye lately now that I've learned that he lives with bipolar disorder. I have a number of relatives with bipolar disorder, and I've seen how hard it makes life for them. And as a result, the rumors of Kanye's divorce has hit me harder than most celebrity failed marriages do, because living with bipolar can be really hard. And you may be wondering why I'm talking about Kanye and his marriage to Kim Kardashian and hip-hop in a sermon. And here's why. A few years ago in 2018, Kanye had a very public conversion to Christianity, and his two most recent albums are gospel records. The first one is titled Jesus is King. The second one is titled Jesus is Born. And in particular, I want to focus on that first album, Jesus is King. I want to talk about his song on it, Follow God. I found a review in a very secular music publication, Pitchfork, to be very insightful to thinking through this album, Jesus is King, and I thought they gave a really interesting and helpful critique to us in the church. They note by the end of this album, they remain rather unclear what Kanye exactly means when he declares Jesus is King and invites us to follow God. And I know there's this tendency among Christians to get defensive and feel mocked by the secular world, but I found Pitchfork's review of Kanye's album to be incredibly gracious and thought-provoking. If anything, Pitchfork doesn't mock Kanye for being Christian, but questions what about Kanye's music is Christian. There's this song that Christians love to sing that you've probably heard before that goes, "They will know we are Christians by our love." And I've been wondering this week after reading this review, what else can be proof of our Christian faith? They will know we are Christians by our fill in the blank. For Kanye on this album, the answer seems to be they will know we are Christians by our scattered biblical references, and they will know we are Christians because we declare that Jesus is King in word. In other words, they will know we are Christians by the words we use. And this review in Pitchfork, though, finds Kanye's album, his answer to his proof of Christianity to be insufficient. And let me read you a snippet from this review that I found especially interesting. It's hard to take West seriously when the obstacles he distresses over are Instagram likes and steep tax rates. On one song, the IRS, he complains, wants, quote, half the pie. And rather than the grace, justice, and love that characterizes faith at its most transformative, West internalizes the religious entitlements that prop up the wealthy and powerful, validating months of jokes about his ambitions as a megachurch pastor. Revelations in recent weeks that he admonished his wife for wearing tight clothes and asked collaborators to abstain from premarital sex and began keeping a Christian scorecard that includes limiting himself to 2 curse words a day suggest his interpretation of the gospel has been more dogmatic than faithful. So Pitchfork would conclude from Kanye, they will know we are Christians because we don't curse or have sex outside of marriage or wear revealing clothes. They will know we are Christians by our record keeping of sin. Are these the marks of the Christian life that we want to share as the church? Or might there be something more to say? And I'm really interested by Kanye's song, Follow God, in that it's based on a sample of a hymn that was originally written by Charles Wesley that the black church has embraced as a popular gospel song. The hymn is, Father, I stretch my hands to thee. And in their review of this album by Kanye, Pitchfork tells a story about this hymn, Father, I stretch my hands to thee. And trigger warning, I'm about to tell you a story of some disturbing racial violence. So if you don't want to hear it, I encourage you to fast forward about 30 seconds in this sermon. The Pitchfork Review writes, in 1964, in the small rural community of Longdale, Mississippi, a group of black worshipers at the Mount Zion Methodist Church were ambushed by the Ku Klux Klan. The attackers, some of whom were allegedly dressed in police uniform, broke one man's jaw, viciously beat others, and ultimately burned the building to the ground. In the midst of the chaos, a woman named Beatrice Cole launched into a spoken prayer of despair. Father, I stretch my hand to thee, no other help I know. If thou withdraw thyself from me, where shall I go? And probably the Klansmen retreated. Such was the power of the gospel. This reviewer in Pitchfork magazine, a secular music critic, says in as many words, if that is what Christianity is about, I'm interested. This reviewer asks a question we as the church really need to wrestle with. What makes us Christian? Is it our regular references to the Bible and avoidance of curse words? Or when we proclaim that Jesus reigns and that we worship a God that can bring an end to suffering and violence? A God that protects the vulnerable and the persecuted, like those at Mount Zion Methodist Church. They will know we are Christians because our powerful gospel brings an end to hatred and violence. It stops the Klansmen and racism in its tracks. They know we are Christians because in times of suffering, we don't try to get even, but our lives instead sing, Father, I stretch my hand to thee, no other help I know. If thou withdraw thyself from me, where shall I go? They will know we are Christians by our work and God's healing work in the world. On this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, we can learn from Reverend Dr. King on the marks by which they will know we are Christians. They will know we are Christians by our belief that the gap between the world as it is and the world as it can and should be can be bridged. And they will know we are Christians by our dignity in the face of insult and harm. They will know we are Christians by our grace, by our love, by our healing work. So now I encourage you to take out a piece of paper and a pencil and write down, they will know we are Christians by our, and then fill in the blank of how they will know we are Christians. Maybe pause the video and reflect on this for a few minutes. They will know we are Christians by our, fill in the blank. In Dr. King's famous "I Have a Dream" speech, he alludes to Amos 5 when he says, "We are not satisfied and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a living stream, like a mighty stream." Martin Luther King Jr., the preacher of this gospel, is referencing Amos 5 when he declares, I reject your festivals. I don't enjoy your joyous assemblies. If you bring me your entirely burned offerings and gifts of food, I won't be pleased. I won't even look at your offerings of well-fed animals. Take away the noise of your songs. I won't listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. In these dark and challenging words of the prophet Amos, God is insisting that there is more to say than that they will know we are Christians by our love of Christian music and Christian ritual. They will know we are Christians by our love and our justice that rushes in and cleanses a thirsty world. Jesus asks this really interesting question in Mark 8. He asks the same question in Matthew 16 and Luke 9, so it's clearly an important question to Jesus. Let's open our Bibles to Mark chapter 8, verse 27 through 29. Jesus and his disciples went into the villages near Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" They told him, "Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, and still others one of the prophets." And he asked them, "What about you? Who do you say that I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." A lot is stirred up right now. And in this season, who do we say that Christ is? The way that our lives are lived gives a powerful answer to this question. And I have to say, I'm proud of how we as Atonement have handled the difficult challenges of the past year. I know it's really tempting to just do what we want and what's easiest and what feels normal for us, but we have shown in the last year that we worship a God of healing and life through our commitment to not gather indoors in person as a church community in such a way that could potentially cause COVID to spread. They will know we are Christians by our patience and our care for our community's health. And this has also been on display with our blood drive this past week, where our donations will save over 100 lives. And I'm also proud of our commitment to those in Tepeagua, El Salvador, and Ray Shrank's asylum ministry. They will know we are Christians because of our concern for the vulnerable. Church, this isn't an easy time right now, but let us continue to be a church that builds up and not a church that tears down. Let our existence as Atonement continue to demonstrate that they will know we are Christians by our love. Amen.